Started. Jim, did you want to do some introductions? Do you want me to introduce myself? How do you want to do this?
Basically, we'll kind of let everybody introduce themselves. There's two people with their videos on. I'm one, and Aaron Craig, who is motionless. He's from the council and kind of helping with some of the electronic parts of it. So, with that, I think we'll just kick it out. Aaron, if you want to start switching screen sharing, or if you just want to start with Nate and do the introductions, we'll go from there. Nate, why don't you just go ahead?
All right. So I'm Nathan Kelly. I'm serving as or taking over for Ron Gordon as the Assistant Council Commissioner for Recharter. So this is my first year doing this. Me and Ron are kind of doing a transition year with him transitioning out for next year and me taking over for the President Ford Service Council. So and then I got a couple more counterparts over on the east side for the, what is it, the Great Lakes Council or Great Lakes Service, whatever that is. I'm still learning things, guys, still learning. So yeah, so I've been in scouting for a few years now, going on, I think, my 8th year now as a leader from the pack and onto the troop side now. And I'm based in Allegan with Troop 91 and 191. So that's me.
All right, Nathan, I think I should have given you full rights to run the show as you wish, but if you need something, I'm here to help.
Sounds great. Yep, I've used Reading Central before, so. All right, so Jim, did you want everybody to introduce themselves so I can start calling on people?
Probably not at this point. We'll catch up with them when they start asking questions.
Perfect. Love it.
Aaron, you want to do the share screen thing or you want me to?
Oh, I got it.
Okay.
Because I'm going to share my PowerPoint here. I'm going to share screen one. All right, so you should be seeing a PowerPoint now. So as I mentioned earlier, I did steal this from National, so I have to give credits where credit is due. This was created by the National Service Team, servicing and supporting units and technology. So I have made changes to it to make this more MCC specific, but this I did borrow it from them. So I appreciate all the efforts that they put into this. So a lot of great information in here. So tonight our topics are going to include, so we will not discuss each slide in great detail, but I do highly suggest all the commissioners take time, read through each of these slides. I do have a lot of notes on these slides, so that will help you to understand the content so that we can have a good conversation started when completing unit visitations. So the big thing here is having the commissioners meet with their units for this recharter, and we're going to talk about that tonight as well. There are two important notes I believe we can use to have a dramatic impact and drastically improve recharter results for this year. So the information we're covering tonight will be more focused on the process itself. So number one, we want to make sure that we're helping the units get started early on gathering data and following a timeline, and we'll talk more about that timeline in a little bit. We want to make sure that they are assigning a recharter champion to be that main point of contact for organizing and processing the internet recharter. I also would personally suggest committee chairs take this role on as an opportunity to also to assign a delegate in the My.Scouting. So if your committee chairs have not done that now, or your chartered org rep has not done that, that is a great way for them to go in and assign that delegate so that other people within their group also have the ability to do the internet rechartering as well and be that main point of contact. So we're going to talk about what is a charter, keys to a successful recharter, membership inventories, YPT, unit timeline, and some recharter resources, along with some other challenges that are specific to MCC. So first off, what is a charter? For those who are new to commissioners and maybe have not gone through this process before, the charter is the annually the local council enters into an agreement with the chartered organization, granting them a charter. This charter enables the organization or group to use the scouting program under adult leadership they approve of in order to accomplish its objectives and to serve the organization's youth and families. One of the big things in there, and this is something that I can speak to personally, is that the chartered organization is picking those adult leadership. So that is something that a lot of units probably don't do, or their charter organization does not do and does not realize that. Encouraging your units to more engage with their charter organization to better understand what a chartered organization is supposed to do. I think with the UMC, and this is my opinion, with the UMC issues or changes that are recharting that we're having to do with them, I think that's bringing to light a lot of potentially not necessarily bad habits, but just things that we got away from, or many units have gone away from. So just kind of readdressing that with your units. And we'll talk more about UMC recharter in a later slide. So keys to a successful charter. So this is where we start getting into that meats and potatoes, that bread and butter of everything. So these are the keys to a successful recharter. These will enable units to be extremely successful with understanding the overall process. The online training materials are important to review, as this will help answer many questions before you even get started. So take the time, review those resources that are out there, start early. Don't wait until the system opens. That's one of the big things. Everybody thinks they have to wait until the system opens on October 2nd, and that's not a case. You can start early on. You can start today. Encourage your units to start early. Obviously, October 2nd isn't very far away. That is only next Sunday, but help them identify a recharter champion, complete that membership inventory, check that youth protection report, and create a plan to collect fees, along with reviewing all those online training materials. So you yourself are experienced, because a lot of times as that commissioner, you are going to be that first point of contact for that unit. They're going to reach out to you first, or one of your unit commissioners, whatever the case may be. So make sure that you are aware of those FAQs. Read that recharter guide, watch that recharter video, so that you kind of have that knowledge and experience already. So knowing the most common reasons recharters are not processed will help units to avoid these defects when submitting, and also avoid the delays that go along with these. And this is going to be huge this year. We need to make sure that we are submitting as clean of a recharter as possible. So meet with your units, go through that, offer that up, offer your units. I mean, they can reach out to me, they can reach out to Ron, they can reach out to one of the other recharter champions, or the council commissioners for recharter. We're here to help. I mean, we want to help. We want to make sure all this stuff is there. We'll talk more about why this is going to be important in a later slide, but we want to make sure that we're looking for all of these common reasons. You know, those missing signed criminal background checks is another one, or those CBCs. Expired youth protection or missing YPT. I admit that's one that I get caught up on a lot, is missing that YPT, even though they took it, making sure that they have that proof of certificate. Missing those signatures, key 3 approvals, missing adult applications, especially if it's like a Tiger or something like that. The money's incorrect. That's one that just got me 2 weeks ago when I submitted a bunch of applications from our joint scouting night. Is I did the math wrong, and I was $13 short, which is now hanging up these applications, which should have already have been processed, but that was because I did not enter the right dollar amount, and so that was on me. Youth turned 18, that's another big one. Knowing, especially on the troop side, knowing when those youth turn 18, or even on the venturing side, or the sea scouting side, or the explorer side, knowing when your youth turn 18, so that they need to get that YPT and that criminal background check and all that stuff done. So that's another one that can hang up units, especially in that venture. Yes.
Yeah, what's the line in the sand you guys are recommending for youth turning 18? Are we only worried about the kids that are 18 as of December 31st, 2022?
No. That's going to be the same rule of thumb. That. Yep. So I would recommend, now this is my personal recommendation. This is the first time I've had this question asked, but my personal recommendation would be to follow the same recommendation we have for YPT. So if your YPT expires before March 1st, renew it. Same thing. If you have a youth that turns 18 before March 1st, have them do youth protection, have them do that criminal background check, have them do the application. Because the last thing you want to have happen is for something to go wrong with your recharter and it get a defect and it gets pushed back. And now all of a sudden you now have a youth on there that's turned 18 on February 1st, and it's now February 2nd, and now your recharter is held up because of that. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, so that's my recommendation. I don't know if somebody from council much higher than me wants to override me on that one, but that would be my recommendation. If it's before, if they turn 18 before March 1st, have them do all this stuff. All right, hearing no objections. So up next, let's talk about the timeline. So we're gonna be spending a little bit of time on this slide because this slide is one of the most important ones of this PowerPoint. So this has been adjusted from national to reflect MCC timelines. So as you can see, we are actually wanting that final review and charter submitted by November 18th. Oh, I forgot to update a date here. I just noticed that. I'll fix that. So November 18th is kind of what we want everybody to have their charter submitted by. Yeah, that's a little bit of a hope. We know not every unit is going to be able to make that November 18th, especially with all of the UMC rechartering, new charter partners that are going to have to be found. But ideally, November 18th, especially for a unit that is not a UMC unit or has already had their UMC recharter changed over to a new charter partner. Definitely November 18th is our goal there. As you can see, this timeline does start way back off on August 1st. We are currently on September 25th, so we are right after that attend a recharter training, which is what you guys are doing today, is attending that recharter training. And then the internet charter opens on October 2nd. Now, historically, we've always had that December 31st deadline to get it into council. That is going to be a little bit more problematic this year, which we'll talk about more in a future slide, but basically everything needs to be posted by February 28th. And if units are waiting till December 31st to get stuff in, and if they have defects and things have to be fixed, they could potentially miss that February 28th date. We hope not, but that is a risk. So getting in by November 18th is going to pretty much assure them that they are not going to hit the hard and fast February 28th deadline. So take some time, look this over. So the purpose of this timeline is to help units understand the major steps in recharter process and show they're able to begin that pre-work before the internet recharter opens, in turn giving them more time to focus on the data entry portion when it opens. So for those who have not done an internet recharter in a while, there is a lot of data entry that has to occur on that. And if they don't start collecting that data early on, it can be a really big bear to try to collect that data if they're doing this, trying to do their recharter on like December 10th or something. Speaking from somebody who's done that, it's not a great way to go. So these timeline dates are recommended to keep units on track during the recharter process. So that stage 1 is that data collection. Stage 2 is the data entry. And then stage 3 is that council review, validate, and unit resolves any defects. So getting those defects resolved is huge here. As commissioners, one of our primary objectives is to support timely recharter renewals. You will notice the very first step is for a commissioner to meet with the unit key 3 and review the timeline and resources available to help them through the process. This is a great way to begin the recharter season. This way, the unit has a good understanding of the overall process, the timeline, and just to know they have someone they can go to will be beneficial to them. I also know that not every unit has a commissioner assigned to them. That is definitely a concern. That is another reason why Ron and myself, at least for the President Ford area, we will email out to all the key three the information about Recharter so that we can touch base with those units that maybe don't have a unit commissioner assigned to them. An assigned unit recharter champion greatly increases the likelihood of an on-time charter renewal. A recharter champion should be assigned in every unit to be lead during all three stages. This is usually the committee chair or a designated committee member. The committee chair will already have access to the internet recharter system. A committee member will need to be given access by adding them as a delegate in my.scouting. So a committee member is typically not going to be one of the key three. So that's where that delegate comes into play. Units should take the time to review all available resources to ensure they are ready for that internet recharter when it opens on October 2nd. Membership inventory can begin before internet recharter opens and should be done on a regular basis to ensure all members are accounted for in my.scouting. For units who go through roundup in the fall, it may be necessary to do a second inventory shortly after all new members have been added to the unit. Identify leaders who have YPT expiring and give them enough time to renew YPT before submitting the charter renewal. That is big. We want to make sure that they get that YPT renewed before they submit that recharter. Do not wait to log into the recharter renewal system when it opens on October 2nd. So that's another thing. Encouraging them to access this even before, as soon as October 2nd hits, to make sure that there's no hiccups, that they can access it, that there isn't going to be some password missing or messed up or something like that, so that the proper person has access to when they need it. It'll be helpful for units to begin working on their data entry in early October, along with collecting membership fees. So getting those membership fees collected from their youth and parents. And as always, a scout is helpful. So submitting that charter renewal by November 18th allows council plenty of time to review all charters before the end of the year. Oftentimes there are defects and units will need the additional time to have those corrected. The November 18th due date is recommended since so many charters are processed in the month of December. So as I mentioned earlier, I will openly admit I have been that guy who has been at council or has been up at the President Ford Council office on December 31st, handing in my units recharter. So I have tasked all three of my units this year that we are going to be better and we're going to get that done early.
Nate, can I ask a question?
I'm going to pause right here. Yeah, I was just going to ask if there's any questions.
Yeah, this is Jim Newell. I got a question in here in terms of you're talking as the council or the division recharter champions on the thing, and you're talking about directly contacting the unit leaders when you see a problem that's going on. What copying are you going to do with that contact to both the district commissioner and to the unit commissioner, who most likely is already working with these people? The problem we're running into is they're getting hit from two different directions and they don't know who to pay attention to. You may be asking about a problem that it's already been in process of being resolved. So how are you going to communicate with the commissioners?
Well, so that is where that's still something that I have to learn. I'll be honest, Jim, that's still something that I personally have to learn when it comes for me and Ron, how that gets handled from my role. Is this something where I just reach out to the district commissioner? Do I reach out to the unit commissioner? Do I reach out to the key three? I don't feel like I should reach out to the key three directly if there's defects. Having and trying to have that that one voice, which is what I think you're trying to come with, is having that one voice, that one point of contact.
Not necessarily
for
one
the
voice,
unit?
but one voice that is communicating with everyone involved with that particular problem.
For that particular unit, correct? So like are you referring to if a unit has a defect, how is that unit being communicated with that defect?
Yes. What happened last year, you guys were
Okay.
dealing directly with the unit leaders and bypassing both the district commissioners and the unit commissioners who were already working on the same problem and had it mostly resolved.
Okay.
So
Hey,
it's like
Jim, this is my
communicating not
first year,
just with the
so
problem source, but with the people who are trying to fix it.
well, I guess my question is, Jim, so this is my first year doing this, so this is all new to me. So in what you're saying, or I should say what I'm hearing, is that from a council commissioner level or assistant council commissioner level, you would like us to communicate with the district commissioner and the unit commissioner before communicating with a key 3 member. Even if that key 3 member contacts us, we want to make sure we include you guys, so that all that communication, so if you're already working on something, you can be like, oh, hey, Nathan, I'm already taking care of this. You don't need to worry about this.
Cheryl, you want to speak up here because you were involved with quite a few of those in the past.
Yeah, Nathan, a little bit of what I talked to Jim about, bent his hair, because this is my, well, last spring was my first time as district commissioner, is just trying to determine what the process flow is supposed to be. When defectives start hitting, who's supposed to do what first. Yet to answer your question of a moment ago, do we want the council people or whatever to be looping those of us in? As district commissioner, yes, I would want to know. But we also need, because we ran into a couple of times of, okay, somebody comes back to the commissioner team and says, your unit such and so has a defective. And so we go trotting off to unit key 3 to say, let's fix this. And they go, wait a minute, I talked to the staff member, Frank or whoever, and gave them that paperwork 3 days ago. So just if we can define what's the optimal best way for us as the volunteers to support the staff and recharter units, and exactly who's doing what, if we can kind of lay that out, that might help clear up a lot of crossed wires.
All right, so we need, and I guess I won't be able to answer that question tonight, but we need a solid framework in place as to when it comes to a defect, who is going to contact that unit for the defect? How's the unit going to be made aware of that? Is that going to be a district executive? Is that going to be paid scout, or is that going to, who is that going to be? Okay, so we need to have that framework figured out, communicated out, to make sure we communicate that out of what the framework is going to be. So that's something that I'll have to take back to
the staffers, Aaron and his team. They may want us to say, okay, you guys take care of the YPT and updating the apps. When those defects come in, the staff's going to take care of the money problems. I mean, just using that as a vague example.
Yep.
If we can lay that out so everybody knows who's supposed to wear which hat in which direction, I'd like to think that's going to expedite things, and people know which way you want us to go.
Yep. Oh, I completely agree with that. So unfortunately, I don't really have an answer to that tonight, but I can, that's something that I will circle back with the Recharter team and
got a little time.
See if we can get that hammered out. Yep. Yeah, we got a little bit of time, not much, we got a little. So yeah, I'll work with Wayne and others to figure out what that process is going to be. So I'll take that back to them. Perfect. Okay, anything else on this one? Okay. Hearing none, we'll go ahead and move forward to the next slide here. So talking about some more of those things. So this membership inventory. So this was kind of a new term for me. Once I read it, I was like, oh yeah, we've done this before. So a membership inventory is one of the main tasks units can begin before the system opens for Recharter. Membership inventories can be conducted throughout the year to ensure a roster is accurate. So talking on here, so a committee member should contact every family. So this is that time of year to be reaching out to families, reaching out to, especially if you have youth who are not necessarily starting to come back to meetings. A lot of units maybe take the summer off or decrease the amount of activities they have in summer. So start ramping that back up and see who is going to continue on into the next year. Also, it gives a time to kind of reach out to that family if they're not going to continue on, find out why they're not going to continue on, and see if there's anything that can be done to help resolve that. Maybe it's financial concerns, maybe it's concerns with somebody in that unit, maybe there's a possibility of transferring to another unit, but keeping that youth within scouting. Also, good time to verify those Scout Life subscriptions, communicate fees and unit payment due dates. And then once that membership inventory is completed, make sure that the units retain that roster because that is going to be needed during that data input process when they're putting in all that stuff into their internet recharter, when they can put in there, who's continuing, who's not continuing. I know for me personally, that has always been a pain in the butt, especially if from the pack level, when you have all these different dens that meet all different times and not everybody comes to all the pack meetings. So you're not sure who's active and who's not active. Retaining all that information and getting all that is really nice to do ahead of time versus trying to do it in the moment. And then on the bottom there is how you can, is how they can access the membership inventory report. So this is, you can share this with your key 3 of the unit on how they can access that report and be able to run it prior to even doing the internet recharter, so that when they go to sit down and do that internet recharter, they can go ahead and have all that information taken care of already. Next is our good friend YPT. So youth protection should be kept current when going through the recharter process, and working with your adult leaders to let them know if they expired during the process is vital to avoiding delays. So many a unit has been held up because they had an adult leader with a YPT that has expired or was close to expire, and it only takes one adult with one expired YPT to hold up an entire unit's recharter. So this is very important that they are running this report and looking at it. It's important to note any YPTs expiring before March 1st. So I mentioned that earlier on, but March 1st is that kind of that recommended date that we have. Should be retaken for a December renewal. 2 months out from the end of the recharter renewal month is a good standard when reviewing YPT. So we renew in December, so 2 months out, that gives us March 1st. So that's where that comes into play. Have your units run these reports. Make sure they're accurate. I know from my personal units, they ran this report and found that one of the leaders, actually it was our committee chairman, was going to expire with their YPT in February. So they were going to make sure that they got their YPT done before then. So good report to have them run. So as we mentioned before, dates are important, but why are they important? So this was a recent letter or email that came out from National. So some highlights of that letter is all new and drop units created will have an effective date of the month that it is posted and cannot be backdated to a previous month. So if it doesn't get posted in whatever time, even though it was submitted, say on January 2nd, and it wasn't posted until February, it'll get posted to February 1st, not January 2nd or January 1st. So a little bit of a change there. That kind of plays into the tenure piece, which is what is the next one here. So that February 28th deadline is where I mentioned before is going to be a hard and fast deadline. If after February 28th, any units not rechartered, which means posted, not submitted, you know, posted. This means all the defects are taken care of, the money's been paid, everything's been done. It has to be done by February 28th. If a unit isn't done by then or is starting to get close to that date, we'll look at that. If there's big issues with council or something like that, we'll address those on a case-by-case basis. But there really should not be much of a reason why a unit couldn't be posted by February 28th, as long as they get their paperwork in by December 31st. Now, if they go submit their paperwork on February 1st and they have some defects, February 28th may not happen. So make sure that is well communicated with your units. That is going to be one of the key takeaways from tonight, is this February 28th deadline. If they miss that February 8th, 2028 deadline, their unit will not be rechartered. They will lose all of their tenure, including their adults, and could affect any of their youth that are looking to go on to Eagle, especially if they're close to age 18, stuff like that. So this is kind of a big deal. In the past, these were able to be backdated. That is no longer the case. So big takeaway there. And I kind of want to open this up to Aaron, if there's anything else you would like to add to this.
No, I think you hit all the highlights there. The key thing there is just remembering it's not that we won't, it's that we cannot. The registrars cannot backdate beyond the month we are in. It is part of the bankruptcy and restructuring of, we will not submit adult registrations for anyone previous to the month in which they registered. Has to do with their the liability insurance that the charter organization and the BSA carries for all of those adults, that will not be liable for anything that happened before they were completely registered. So if there's any questions on this specifically, I'd be happy to make sure we're clear on this at the moment. Okay, if you think anything, yeah, let Nathan or I know, or throw it in chat. We'll take care of it. Nathan, up to you.
Perfect. Thank you, Aaron. So also, units cannot begin meeting until the unit has been posted, and all BSA requirements have been met by their members. So this is, of course, part of, this is also going to be a continuation of that bankruptcy and the kind of the new way that Scouts BSA is going to be operating. So making sure that that unit is not meeting until that has actually been posted. So that's kind of always been a rule. I just don't think it's necessarily been super enforced. So making sure that that gets reiterated to units. And then up next, United Methodist Church. So I wanted to bring this in there. We do have several members on this phone call who are the main contacts for MCC. Tim Acola being one of them. So they're definitely going to be the experts when it comes to this United Methodist Church rechartering things. But some things that I just wanted to highlight on here this year, because of all of our UMC units, or most of our UMC units, needing to find new charter partners, this does add an extra challenge of many units needing to seek that new charter partner on top of recharter season. So that does add an extra layer of complication to this, but it can be easily addressed. There's been some confusing information out there. Just be aware of that, from what Scouts BSA National has sent out, what UMC National, UMC Michigan, and MCC has sent out. There has been some confusion. Everybody's telling the same story. They're just telling it in different ways. And it's kind of causing some confusion with some unit leaders. So just some things that we know that are true. MCC will not be the charter partner for any unit, even after the modified agreement. So there was a modified agreement that was released a little bit ago that was meant to address some of the concerns of councils, but MCC is still not going to go along with that modified agreement. So if a unit comes to you about like, hey, we just read that there's this new modified agreement. Why can't we use that? Well, MCC, it's still not something MCC can support. You can share with them. Individual United Methodist congregations can go against the advice of the UMC National. However, UMC National does have many strict recommendations from UMC Michigan. And if you have a unit whose UMC congregation still wants to recharter them, I would highly encourage you to have that unit talk with their chartered org rep and make sure that that congregation is fully understanding what they're getting themselves into and what UMC Michigan opinion on that is. So I'm not going to go into that, what that is. I would just recommend them reaching out to UMC Michigan and having that discussion with them. MCC is encouraging units to find a new charter partner and work with their UMC church to obtain a facilities use agreement. So that is where we're really trying to push all of our units. If their UMC church is willing to sign the charter agreement as presented, great. If not, we want to work with them, have them find that new charter partner, and see if that United Methodist Church is willing to sign that facilities use agreement and still allow that unit to meet and store their equipment there and that sort of stuff. And then the bottom, yes, yeah.
I just want to make mention too, in case it hadn't gotten through the food chain yet, because just yesterday, a headline popped up that in the state of Wisconsin, so not us yet, that the Catholic Church has severed ties with the chartering agreement business with their units in Wisconsin.
That was just
So
one
that's
side.
something we have to be aware of and possibly deal with ourselves next year.
Yeah, and I heard there might be something with like the Elks or the Moose or somebody like that also was looking at maybe breaking with recharter agreements, and that can happen at any time. I mean, the reality is at any time a unit could lose their charter partner for a whole host of reasons. So
my
yeah, we may
understanding,
not be.
this was the diocese pulling away, not the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, and again, it's not us.
Yeah. Oh. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you know what? If that happens, it happens, and we'll
deal with it.
We'll be prepared. Yep.
Yep.
I mean, we've worked with the United Methodist Church, so we kind of know the process. We'll already have a process in place if that happens. But I also know that there have been several other nonprofit organizations that have reached out and said, "Hey, we want to work with the Scouts. You know, if we have a chapter in your area, come talk to us." So they're out there. There's many organizations that want to work with us. So if that happens, cross that bridge when we come to it. But that's interesting. No, I had not heard about that. Yep, I had not heard about that in Wisconsin yet. So, and then lastly, our resources. So there is a tremendous amount of resources out there for everybody, especially at the commissioner level, at the unit level. There's both national and MCC resources out there. So there is, go out there. I've included the links to these various resources. Take a look at them. So you have the Internet Recharting 2.0 on the national side and all the various items that are located there. You have the MCC Internet Recharter 2.0 webpage with its various resources as well. You have the next is where the actual Internet Rechartering is going to occur. And then of course, we always have our unit commissioners, our district commissioners, council registers, and council recharter point of contacts as well. So lots of resources out there for you. Don't hesitate to use them. Feel free to email me, Ron, the other recharter champions, and the other recharter council. I'm still learning all these terms, guys. Assistant council commissioner. It's a mouthful, by the way. All right. Questions. What do we got for questions?
You guys are awfully quiet.
Hey, Nathan. Tim
Yeah.
McCullough. Hey, great presentation.
Hey, Tim.
Great presentation. I have no questions, but I definitely want to compliment you and Ron on a great presentation. You've represented the recharter process excellently. I think you put all the information out there. I appreciate both Jim Newell and Ron and yourself putting this together, and then the other folks on the call to participate. And I think we got to. I know more than I think, between the folks on the President Ford division side, as well as the Great Lakes division side, the Recharter ACCs, as you talk about, have a great team. Wayne Hastings and you all have put together a great process. Well, I think the key is, as you've mentioned, is communication, maintaining that communication, knowing who to contact, and as those defects and other things come up, just make sure that you're reaching out to the right person, letting them know, and getting that get that information shared so we can get it cleared up as quick as possible. But I think this month, as we wind up August, September, the Be Prepared stage, the more that the units and commissioners are helping the units be prepared for October 2nd to launch into recharter season, the less defects we'll have, and a highly successful recharter season we'll have. So thanks for your presentations. You did a great job. I'm proud of you and the team. Thanks.
I think
Thank you,
Tim said everything I needed to say. So tell Ron thanks, and I appreciate your taking the time and presenting this. So hopefully we'll have you on again in the future.
Yeah, I'm planning on it. So far, I've been having a blast over here, learning all sorts of new things.
Okay. Has anyone else got any questions or comments? Well, looks like not. So that's it for the night, guys. Appreciate your coming.
Perfect. Yeah, everybody have a good night.
Thanks, Nathan. Thanks, Jim. I recorded it,
Thanks,
so
everyone.
I'm gonna stop the recording, and I'll Jim mentioned I'll hold on to it until the commissioners give me the green light to send it over to the marketing team.
Sounds good.